Hello, I'm Avis Kalfsbeek, and this is the Peace is Here podcast. Welcome to Peacewarts, School of Peacecraft and Inquiry, where we practice the skills of peace through short classes. We take the peace work seriously, but not ourselves. If you're joining us mid-school year, you're not late. Orientation begins at episode 198. Welcome back to Peacewarts, Peace Scholars. We are in Resonant Charms 101 in the Echo Chamber. In our last lesson, we focused on the doorway sentence, the art of the opening. Today, we move into the structural work of the conversation, de-escalation framing. This is the skill of adjusting the weight of a situation so it doesn't crush the possibility of peace. The 20th century American psychologist and developer of client-centered therapy, Carl Rogers, once observed, "The very essence of the creative is its novelty, and hence we have no standard by which to judge it." The entry, stripping the anchors. In the Department of Resonant Charms, de-escalation framing is the practice of removing the lead weights from your language. When a conflict is peaking, people tend to use anchors, words like always, never, or impossible. In Resonant Charms 101, we recognize these as biological triggers. These words signal a threat to the amygdala, causing the listener's prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that can actually solve problems, to go offline. Framing is the process of putting a new structure around the same set of facts. You aren't surrendering the truth. You're stripping away the evaluative judgment that makes the truth feel like a weapon. By moving from evaluative language to descriptive observation, you lower the temperature enough for the brain to stay in the room. The history, territory, and honor. To see framing in action at the highest level, we look to the 1978 Camp David Accords. Egypt and Israel were deadlocked over the Sinai Peninsula. For years, the frame was territorial. Who owns this dirt? As long as the frame was ownership, the weight of the conflict was immovable. President Jimmy Carter helped shift the frame from territory to security and sovereignty. He realized that Israel didn't necessarily need to own the dirt. They needed to be sure no tanks would cross it. He realized Egypt didn't need to win a war. They needed the dignity of their flag on their land. We see this same charm in the Colombian peace process, where negotiators made a pivotal linguistic shift. They stopped using the word surrender, which is a heavy character-based anchor, and replaced it with the phrase laying down of arms. This was a descriptive behavior-based frame. It allowed for the preservation of honor while achieving the exact same physical result. By changing the category of the problem, these negotiators found a way for both sides to say yes without surrendering their core truths. The thesis, the behavioral stairway. The lesson for today is that a blunt truth often causes more damage than a precise one. To master de-escalation framing, we look to the FBI Behavioral Change Stairway Model. This model teaches that you cannot move someone to a new behavior until you have moved through empathy and rapport. Reframing is the top of that staircase. It requires you to be a curator of facts. You must identify the core truth, the need, and separate it from the aggressive packaging it arrived in. When you reframe an opponent's demand as a concern, you're not being soft, you're being structural. You're taking their high-frequency panic and grounding it into a manageable request. If you can change the frame from a battle of wills to a puzzle of needs, you make the truth light enough to carry. The Commons Forge. How does this concept of de-escalation framing support a world of sharing? It challenges us to treat the very language we choose as a collective cognitive resource that can either be degraded or cultivated. When a dispute is weighed down by rigid zero-sum linguistic anchors, we trigger a tragedy of the commons where a desperate battle of wills depletes our shared relational field. By deliberately reframing a hostile demand into a manageable concern, a peace scholar prevents this depletion, transforming a toxic defensive environment into a shared puzzle of cooperative human needs. Homework. 1. Look up the difference between a position and an interest in conflict resolution. Find one example of how a person's stated demand position hides their actual need. 2. Write down one question about any of this episode's topics. If you don't have a question, just write no question. 3. Optional. Think of a recurring argument in your life. Identify one anchor word you usually use and try to rewrite that truth using only descriptive, non-judgmental language. Notice if the rewrite feels lighter in your throat when you say it. If you'd like to read more on this subject, some book suggestions are Getting to Yes, Negotiating Agreement Without Giving In by Roger Fisher and William Ury, a global gold standard for negotiation that teaches how to separate structural positions and demands from actual underlying interests to reframe disputes. And Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It by Chris Voss, which bridges the tactical mechanics of the FBI behavioral change stairway model with real-world linguistic framing to lower emotional temperatures safely. These are also in the show notes with the homework. The clear signal. A clear signal is not a blunt object. You can be firm in your values without being heavy in your delivery. Look for the anchors in your speech today and see if you can cut the line to let the conversation rise. Until our next lesson, keep your heart in the harmonic. Class dismissed. Thank you for listening. If you're looking for your next read, I write books about strong friends, wild places, and a future worth the effort. The Pedro the Water Dog Saves the Planet series follows two best friends, Tilly and Camus, strong, funny, and in love with the wild world, who decide their small choices add up to something. Hopeful eco-fiction for grown-ups, climate fiction without the doom. You can jump in anywhere or start with book 1. In one more year, Tilly can swim like a dolphin and run like the wind. She just never learned to cycle, which is a problem because she's decided to attempt her first Ironman. Her reason isn't glory. It's a quiet, stubborn idea. If one ordinary person can finish something this hard, maybe a whole town can be talked into buying less, wasting less, and keeping their stuff longer. One more year. To pull it off, Tilly leans on her best friend and coach Camus, tattooed, tequila-loving, and exactly the voice you'd want yelling at you from the shore, plus a gruff, retired cycling pro hiding out on a private island, a pack of maverick mountain bikers, a salty old pirate named Ike, and Pedro, her devoted water dog. Together they train, scheme, fall a little in love, and slowly realize their northwest lake town of Sandglass is facing a threat bigger than any race. My books are available wherever books are sold, including at aviskalfsbeek.com. Podcast music is by Javier Pequi Rodriguez, and the track is I Am Late, Madame Curie. Sound effects are from Pixabay. Regarding peace, we need not delay or despair. We are not late. We are right on time to love. We are all scholars of peace. Listen for the peace.